The night sky above the imperial palace burned like a dying sun. Flames climbed high walls, smoke rolled across the marble floors, and the sound of explosions shook the golden towers. The empire that ruled 100 worlds was falling, and every corner of the palace felt the end coming. Empress Lyria ran through the long halls, her silver cloak torn and her breath sharp. Her crown was missing, her guards gone, and her own people had turned against her. Only a few hours ago, she had stood on her throne, giving orders with pride. Now she was running for her life. The glowing crystals on the walls flickered as the power systems failed. Shadows danced everywhere, and in those shadows, she felt eyes watching her, cold, hungry eyes. She reached the grand corridor, expecting to find her elite guards waiting there. Instead, she found only fear. The guards who had sworn loyalty to her stood frozen, shaking. Their armor rattled as they stepped back from her. "Protect me," Lyria ordered, her voice strong even as her hands trembled. But the guards did not obey. One by one, they dropped their weapons. Their faces were pale. Their eyes showed the same thing, they did not want to die for her. We cannot fight the assassins, my empress," one whispered. Before she could speak again, they ran, fleeing down side passages, dropping their armor behind them like broken promises. Lyria felt something break inside her. Her people, her army, her empire, they had all abandoned her. A soft metallic sound clicked behind her. She turned slowly. An alien assassin stood at the end of the corridor. Tall. Dark armor. Smooth helmet with a red glowing visor. No emotions. No face. No mercy. It raised its blade. Lyria froze. Her legs refused to move. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear anything else. The assassin stepped forward. And then a blur of movement slammed into it. A human soldier. Cain. He hit the assassin with a force that surprised even Lyria. The blade missed her by inches as Cain pushed her aside and blocked the next strike with his forearm armor. The clash echoed like thunder. Cain grabbed the assassin by the throat and smashed its head against the wall. Sparks flew. The assassin swung its blade again, but Cain twisted his body, dodging fast and low, and rammed his knife into a weak joint under its arm. The assassin collapsed with a metal thud. Cain stood over it, breathing hard, blood dripping from a cut near his eyebrow. Lyria stared at him with wide eyes. Cain was only a human warrior, a soldier from a conquered world. Humans were considered weak, slow, less evolved. Yet this human had saved her life twice before she could even speak. Why did you stay?" Lyria asked, voice trembling. Cain wiped the blood from his face. His eyes were sharp, steady, and calm, too calm for someone facing death. "Because you trusted me," he said simply. And that was enough. Before she could reply, the palace lights shut off completely. Total darkness swallowed them. A warning alarm roared through the palace. Section collapse. Enemy units detected. Evacuate immediately. Cain grabbed her arm gently but firmly. "We need to move. More assassins are coming." They ran through the corridor, guided only by the faint emergency lights. The ground shook as another explosion tore through the palace. Statues fell. Marble cracked. The once beautiful halls looked like ruins of an ancient war. They reached the hidden escape door behind a large tapestry. Cain pulled the release lever, and the panel slid open, revealing a dark stairway leading deep underground. "This way," he said. But before they could enter, a sharp, chilling scream echoed behind them. It was not human. It was not even close. Lyria turned, and her heart froze. A second assassin stood at the far end of the hallway, but this one was different. Bigger. Heavier armor. Spikes along its arms. Its visor glowed not red but bright white. A royal hunter. Created for one purpose, to kill emperors. It locked onto Lyria instantly. Cain stepped in front of her, raising his blade. The hunter moved with terrifying speed. It crossed half the hallway in seconds. Cain blocked the first strike, but the force threw him backward. He hit the wall hard, yet he did not fall. He pushed off it and charged again. The hunter slashed. Cain parried. Its second strike cut deep into the wall, sending stone flying. Cain tried to stab its leg, but the armor was too thick. Sparks burst from the impact. "Go," he shouted at the Empress. "Get to the stairs." "I will not leave you," she answered without thinking. The hunter swung again, and the blade passed so close to Lyria's face she felt the cold air on her skin. Cain grabbed her shoulder and shoved her toward the doorway. "Now!" She stumbled down the first step as Cain blocked another blow. The hunter knocked Cain back, its strength impossible for a normal soldier to resist. But Cain kept fighting, dodging, striking, doing anything to slow it down. Lyria reached the bottom of the stairs and looked up just in time to see the hunter grab Cain by the throat and lift him off the ground. "No," she whispered, unable to breathe. Cain kicked it hard, forcing it to drop him, and rolled to the side. "Run," he shouted again. She turned and ran through the underground tunnels, her heart beating wildly. Cain followed seconds later, limping, wounded but alive. The tunnel behind them shook as the hunter forced its way in. They reached the end of the tunnel, but the exit was blocked by fallen stones. Cain pushed. Pulled. Tried to lift the debris. It didn't move. The hunter's heavy footsteps echoed closer and closer. Lyria felt the fear rise in her chest. Cain drew his blade again and stepped between her and the sound. The hunter was coming. And there was no escape. The tunnel shook with every step the hunter took. Dust fell from the ceiling. Small stones rolled across the floor. The air felt heavy, tight, almost painful. Empress Lyria stood frozen before the blocked exit, staring at the wall of fallen rocks. There was no way forward. No secret door. No hidden passage. They were trapped. Cain stepped in front of her again, wounded but steady. His breathing was rough, and blood soaked his sleeve, but his eyes were fixed on the darkness behind them. The hunter was close, too close. Its metallic footsteps echoed like a beating war drum. "Stay behind me," Cain said quietly. Lyria wanted to argue. She wanted to say she wasn't helpless. But fear locked her voice. She only nodded. A soft, cold wind blew through the tunnel as the hunter appeared at the far end. Its glowing white visor cut through the darkness like a blade of light. Its body was larger than before, its armor changing shape as small metal plates shifted with a soft clicking sound. It was adapting. Evolving. Learning from the fight. Cain raised his blade. "It wants you," he said. "So it must go through me first." The hunter charged. The tunnel exploded with sound. Cain dodged the first strike, the blade cutting a long scar into the stone wall. Sparks rained everywhere. The force of the blow shook the ground under their feet. Cain countered, thrusting at its neck, but the hunter shifted its armor again, his blade bounced off like he had hit a wall. Lyria watched with horror as the hunter slammed its arm into Cain's ribs. Cain crashed to the ground, coughing, trying to breathe. The hunter stepped closer to him, ready to deliver the final strike. "No!" Lyria screamed. But Cain rolled away at the last second. The hunter's blade stabbed into the floor, cracking it. Cain swung his knife at the creature's leg joint, this time he hit a softer plate. The blade sank in. The hunter screamed, a sharp electronic shriek that shook the tunnel. It retaliated instantly, throwing Cain across the ground like a rag doll. Cain hit a broken column and didn't move. "Cain!" Lyria cried, running to him. He pushed himself up slowly, eyes unfocused, breath thin. "I'm fine," he lied. The hunter advanced, limping slightly. Its white visor flickered with anger. Cain stood again. Barely. Lyria felt something pull inside her chest. Fear, yes, but also something else. Anger. Shame. She was an empress, ruler of a vast empire, yet here she was, hiding behind a human she had once considered weak. "Kane, we can't fight it like this," she whispered.
"I know," he said. "But we can slow it down."
He pointed to a small maintenance door on the side of the tunnel. "That leads into the old mining shafts under the palace.
If we get inside, the tunnels twist. It won't be able to chase us easily." Lyria nodded. But the hunter didn't plan to give them a chance. It sprang forward, faster than before.
Kane grabbed the Empress's hand and pulled her with him. They ran as the hunter crashed into the wall behind them, sending rocks flying. Kane kicked the maintenance door open, and they slipped through right before the hunter's blade struck the doorway. The metal door bent inward like soft clay.
Kane slammed the lock switch, sealing it.
The hunter roared from the other side and smashed its fists against the metal.
Dents appeared instantly.
They had seconds at most.
"Come on," Kane said. They ran through the narrow mining shaft.
The walls were old metal and rusted pipes.
The lights flickered weakly as if they were dying too.
The tunnel twisted left, then right, then dipped downward.
Lyria could barely keep up with Kane even though he was injured.
Behind them, metal screeched. The hunter had broken the door.
The chase began again.
They reached a wide chamber filled with old machines. The air smelled of dust and oil. A broken crane hung from the ceiling. In the center, a large security console stood covered in dirt. Kane rushed to it and wiped the panel clean with his sleeve.
"If I can start the old door system," he said, "we can trap it." Lyria stepped closer. "Let me try. I have royal codes."
She placed her hand on the scanner. The machine beeped weakly, then flickered to life.
Behind them, footsteps echoed, louder, sharper, faster.
The hunter entered the chamber. Kane pulled his blade again and stepped forward.
"Hurry," he told her. "I'll hold it."
The hunter charged.
Kane met its attack, the clash of metal shaking the floor. Sparks flew as their weapons collided.
Kane dodged a crushing blow, but the hunter caught him with its other hand, throwing him across the chamber.
"Kane!" Lyria shouted. He hit the old crane hard.
The metal frame groaned but held. The hunter turned toward Lyria. Her hands trembled over the console. She typed the final code, and the chamber lights turned red.
"Security seal activated," the machine said.
The gate behind the hunter began closing, massive steel panels sliding down from the ceiling. The hunter realized too late. It turned to escape. Kane grabbed its leg, holding it in place. His fingers dug into the metal with every bit of strength he had left.
"You're not going anywhere," he growled.
The hunter kicked him, but Kane didn't let go.
The steel gate slammed down onto the hunter's body.
The creature screamed as its upper half was cut off from its lower half. The light in its visor flickered, then died.
Silence filled the chamber. Lyria ran to Kane.
His arms and face were cut, bruised, and bleeding. He lay on the ground, breathing heavily. "Why do you fight so hard for me?" she asked softly. Kane looked up at her, eyes half closed but still steady.
"Because you didn't run. You stayed. And that means something."
Lyria felt her heart tighten.
She didn't know what to say.
Before she could speak, a loud rumble filled the chamber. The explosion from the collapsing gate had damaged the supports.
Cracks formed in the ceiling. Kane pulled himself up. "We need to go. The rebels will be outside by now."
They left the chamber, running through the last tunnel that led to the mountain exit.
But when they reached the surface, Lyria gasped.
A rebel army waited for them.
Hundreds of soldiers. All aiming their weapons directly at the Empress.
Cold wind rushed down from the mountain cliffs as Kane and Empress Lyria stepped out of the tunnel.
For a second, both of them breathed the open air with relief. Then they saw the army. Hundreds of rebel soldiers stood in a wide circle, weapons raised.
Their armor was black, worn, and covered with dust from the long battle against the Empire. Their flags snapped in the wind like the wings of dark birds.
Kane stepped in front of Lyria instantly. The rebel commander, a tall alien with cracked blue skin and metal implants along his jaw, walked forward. His voice echoed loudly through a speaker. "Empress Lyria. Your empire has fallen. Your guards have run. Your throne is dust. Surrender now, and your death will be fast." Lyria straightened her back. She was exhausted, bruised, and covered in dirt, but she still carried herself like a ruler. "You will not harm my people." The soldiers yelled with laughter. "You have no people," the commander said. "They abandoned you just like you abandoned them." Kane's fist tightened around his blade. The commander pointed at him. "And you, human. Step aside. This is not your fight." Kane didn't move. They called humans weak. They used humans as servants. They never respected them. But now, one human soldier stood between an empress and an army. So Kane raised his blade higher. "If you want her," he said, voice steady, "you go through me first." A ripple of surprise moved through the rebels. Whispers spread. Even Lyria looked at him with wide eyes. "You will die for her?" the commander asked. Kane didn't blink. "I will fight for what is right." The commander laughed. "Then prove it. I offer you a duel. You win, I let her leave. You lose, she dies, and so do you." Kane nodded once. "I accept." Lyria grabbed his arm. "Kane, no. You're injured. You can't." He looked at her gently. "This is the only way." She swallowed her fear. Then win." Kane stepped forward into the open field. The rebels backed away, forming a large circle around him and the commander. Snow fell lightly from the cliffs above them. The wind was cold and sharp, brushing against Kane's face. His ribs hurt with every breath. His arms shook from the wound the hunter gave him. But his eyes stayed strong. The commander drew two curved blades that glowed blue. "Humans are slow," he said. "This will be quick." Kane didn't answer. He just tightened his grip. The commander charged first. His blades moved fast, too fast for normal soldiers. But Kane didn't stand still. He ducked under the first strike, stepped left from the second, and blocked the third with the handle of his dagger. Sparks flew across the snowy ground. The rebels cheered for their leader. Kane swung low, cutting the commander's leg, then stepped back before the counterattack. The commander hissed and slashed wildly. Kane dodged again, but one blade grazed his shoulder, slicing blood across his armor. Pain burned hot, but Kane didn't stop. He moved like a shadow. Quiet. Focused. Each step planned. Each breath measured. Lyria watched with her hands pressed to her chest. She had seen warriors fight all her life, but never like this. Kane didn't fight for glory. He didn't fight for power. He fought for her. The commander roared and charged again, blades spinning. Kane waited just a heartbeat, and when the strike came, he twisted his body and used the commander's momentum. He caught the alien's arm, pivoted, and slammed him to the ground. The rebels gasped. Kane placed his blade at the commander's throat. The entire field fell silent. Kane did not kill him. He stepped back. The commander rose slowly, shocked by the mercy. He wiped the snow from his armor, staring at Kane with new eyes. "You had the right to end me. Why didn't you?" Kane answered softly, "Because ending you wouldn't bring peace. And because your people deserve better than more blood." For the first time, the commander bowed his head. The rebels lowered their weapons, confused but listening. Lyria stepped forward beside Kane, holding her side where she was bruised. She spoke with a strong, calm voice. "My empire failed because it was built on fear. Kane showed me something else. Courage. Honor. Loyalty. Things I forgot. If I must rebuild, let it be with those who stand for truth, no matter their species." The rebels murmured. Their anger softened.
The commander faced his army.
This human fought with more honor than any of us. If he protects the Empress, then she is not the tyrant we thought. One by one, the rebels lowered their rifles to the ground. Cain let out a slow breath. But peace didn't last long. A deep rumble shook the mountain. Smoke rose from the far side of the cliffs.
The commander's eyes widened.
The palace reactors, they're unstable. The whole mountain will explode.
Cain grabbed Lyria's hand.
There's a ship. In the high caves. We have to go now.
The rebels nodded and ran to help. Even the commander guided them up the icy path. Rocks fell from above, the ground cracked, and fire burst from the tunnels behind them. They reached the old starship hidden in the mountain cave. Its hull was dusty, but the engines hummed when Lyria activated her royal codes.
Get inside!
Cain shouted as the cliff behind them collapsed. They boarded just as the explosion tore the mountain apart. Flames rushed toward the cave entrance like a living creature.
Cain closed the hatch. The shockwave hit.
The ship shook violently, then lifted into the sky, carrying them away from the burning ruins of the Empire.
Inside the quiet cabin, Lyria looked at Cain. Her voice was soft but full of emotion. My people left me, she whispered. But you never did.
Cain looked back at her, exhausted but smiling.
I protect what I believe in.
She reached out, gently held his hand, and whispered. Then let us build something worth protecting.
The ship entered hyperspace. Their story, human and Empress, had only just begun.